This is the REDMAGIC 11 Air, the latest and greatest budget gaming phone from REDMAGIC, starting at only $529 and presenting some of the best bang for your buck in terms of raw horsepower in any smartphone available today. Hey, how's it going? I'm Josh from 91 Tech, and I broke my finger. If you want to find out how, you'll have to wait till the end of the video. But for now, I've always found gaming phones fascinating, even as someone who really doesn't do a whole lot of mobile gaming outside of like Balatro. For me, the appeal in these devices is far less about the gaming so much as it is the performance and value potential, which perhaps makes me sort of ill-equipped to review a phone like this, but I do think there's some merit in bringing an outside perspective. There are plenty of gaming-centric features here, just like with the REDMAGIC 10 Pro that we reviewed last year, or the REDMAGIC 11 Pro, which I didn't get this year, but just came out. When I was first offered the Air, I kind of expected it to be like the iPhone Air, super duper thin, super light, and it's not really that, but it is impressively thin and light for the specs that it contains. Snapdragon 8 Elite chipset, 7,000 mAh battery. It's certainly much more compact than like the 10 Pro we looked at last year, and even compared to like the iPhone 17 Pro, it's noticeably thinner and probably a little lighter as well. By gaming phone standards, you really don't get much sleeker than this. To clarify, I was sent this phone for free by REDMAGIC. There's a link in the description if you want to check it out for yourself, but I don't make any money, no commissions, nothing like that. We're just gonna review it today. I want to take more of a practical approach, coming from more of an average consumer's perspective, and of course ask the big question. Is the REDMAGIC 11 Air worth it? Let's start with the quick unboxing experience. Here's the box, which you'll notice is quite large compared to most smartphone boxes these days that we would generally see in the West at least. And as we open it up, we can find the phone itself along with, what's this, actual accessories? Yeah, that's right, this $500 phone does the impossible and actually includes not only the USB-C cable, but an actual full-size charging adapter, 80 watts no less. Tim Cook is somewhere absolutely seething right now. You'd think it'd be a minor thing, and I suppose it is, but having this included in the box adds to that already impressive value proposition, especially when you've got like a $2,000 phone like the Fold 7 that I unboxed last year, giving you only one cable. We get some paperwork and the SIM tool and the standard of fare, plus there's a pre-included case and a screen protector already installed. And turning to the phone itself, well, it definitely looks like a gaming phone. It's really unique compared to what I've come to expect from modern flagships. It's got a glossy feel to the back with this transparent glass with a decorative cover underneath, and the feel probably helps with the overall grip in the hand. And while the cameras do protrude a bit, it's a fairly minimal bump, but we'll come back to the design shortly. The phone boots up fast and the setup process was easily done within minutes. Last year I complained about the ad situation on the REDMAGIC 10 Pro, mainly because I found it amusing. It was like advertising. I think it was like Mojang for seniors. Am I even saying that right? Whatever. That was like a recommended app I should download on this gaming phone. It felt really silly, but thankfully we didn't have anything like that come up this time. Ads on these sort of phones are not uncommon in order to help offset the low price tag, and often we can see a lot of bloat once we get into the software as well, but it doesn't really seem to be too bad on this phone for the most part, so I'm happy about that. The model I was sent here contains 16 gigabytes of RAM and 512 gigabytes of storage, already more RAM and double the amount of storage that's in my iPhone 17 Pro, which, you know, costs like $1,100 US. But we'll talk about the hardware in a bit. First, let's talk about the design and the display. The phone feels industrial with its flat, boxy aluminum alloy frame and transparent glass back showing off the decorative cover over top the internals. And yes, of course, there's RGB. It wouldn't be much of a gaming phone without it. There's this slight curvature to the glass that helps with comfort, and in conjunction with the relatively thin and light build, I'd imagine this phone would be ideal for longer gaming sessions. It might look like we have 4 cameras here, but don't be fooled. We do have the wide and ultra-wide cameras, and then below them we have an actual cooling fan as well as the LED flash. And yes, there is RGB on the fan as well. I've got the white color that REDMAGIC calls Prism, and then there's also a black option called Phantom. Now I'd be lying if I said these sorts of designs really appeal to me. They don't, honestly. I think it looks good, it's just not really my thing, but I can appreciate how unique they are as well as the engineering behind it. To have a full-blown cooling fan like this inside a phone is no small feat, and while there's a more robust liquid cooling setup on the Pro model, I feel like what we have here is plenty to keep the phone at peak performance without getting too hot or having to throttle much, at least in the vast majority of situations. Turning to the front, we're presented with a huge 6.8-inch AMOLED display with some extremely narrow bezels, an under-display selfie camera, which means no notch or cutout intruding into the experience. Definitely great for more immersive gaming, and all around it's just so cool to see a phone that's basically all display like this. The screen itself is sharp and vibrant with a high resolution and pixel density that will ensure some crisp, high-fidelity gameplay, or whatever you're doing will look great. And fluid too, with that beautifully responsive 144Hz refresh rate, as well as a very high touch sampling rate to ensure the least possible latency. The peak brightness is 1800 nits, so you shouldn't have too many issues with visibility. On the bottom of the phone, we get the USB-C port and the physical SIM tray. Then on the left side, we've got the single red button that leads to what I like to call Epic Gamer Mode, giving us control over the hardware and activating the RGB to really make us feel like a mobile gamer. Pretty epic, right? I mean, look, it's got music. That's pretty epic. This side gives us the 2 touch triggers, so we can, have some extra input options, always nice. Then there's a vent for cooling, and then the power and volume buttons. There is no headphone jack, disappointingly, and we do lack wireless charging, but there is at least some minimal IP54 water and dust resistance, which should protect it in the event of a quick splash or something like that. Hey, when it comes to a phone like this, you gotta cut corners somewhere. And generally on a cheaper gaming phone like this, we tend to see compromises in a lot of small things, like the optical under-display fingerprint sensor, which is pretty good, but not like the ultrasonic one you would get on the Pro. But it does work well enough. I missed. That's embarrassing. Well, you know what? It's hard when you're not looking, okay? It works pretty well. It's fast enough and fairly consistent, so maybe not the fastest fingerprint reader in the world, but it's good. Generally, when it comes to the phones that have been sent from China over the years, I've found some common trends. Often really premium hardware, top-end specs, low price tag, but then often pretty mediocre software, not a whole lot of updates, and often not so good photography. I found that with the REDMAGIC 10 Pro last year. However, quite frankly, these aren't the types of phones that you buy for long-term software support or for the cameras anyways. You buy for the top-end performance, at like in this case half of the price of most flagships. With the REDMAGIC 11 Air, we're getting the aforementioned fantastic display, and powering it all is the Snapdragon 8 Elite chipset. Here's the exact specs on the screen. It's not the Gen 5, which is in the Pro, but it's going to provide excellent performance both now and for years to come. No doubt handling any game you throw at this thing like an absolute champ, aided by at least 12 gigabytes of RAM in the 256 gig model, or 16 gigs in the 512 gig model that I have here. I believe this is actually the same chip that was in the REDMAGIC 10 Pro that we looked at last year, so it's still very impressive. What might be even more impressive than the processing power though, especially in a phone this slim, is the 7,000 mAh battery, which is massive. This phone might not be as thin and light as an iPhone Air, obviously, but that is fine. This is a gaming phone after all, and it's already being significantly more compact than like the Pro is enough for me to be happy. The Pro has like a 7,500 mAh battery, so not even much bigger. You would be hard pressed to manage to kill this phone in a single day of usage, but of course that's the point, right? It's meant to get you hours upon hours of 3D gaming at 144 frames per second, at least for the games that actually support a frame rate that high. And of course it's also powering an impressive cooling system to boot. Now as for the Epic Gamer Mode, it gives us more control over our experience as we play games. You'll see all of your installed games here, although you can still play them off the home screen too. But man, is there ever a lot to this. It's a bit overwhelming, and the tiny UI and sometimes oddly organized text placements really doesn't help ease of use. Also, the English translations are often pretty poor, but I'll touch on that a little later. The whole thing is quite convoluted, and I'm gonna be honest, I can't be bothered to learn how to use most of this. Some of it's nice, like the in-game overlays showing your CPU and GPU stats and an FPS counter. There's also, of course, options for setting up controllers, different peripherals, or even using a mouse and keyboard with your phone, which I'd have to imagine would really give you a very unfair advantage in a lot of mobile games, especially shooters, and you can really go all out setting up your profiles to tailor your gaming experience as you see fit. There's easy options for screencasting or outputting to your computer or monitor, and again, it all boils down to just a crap ton of options and customizability for the most obsessive smartphone gamers among us. Of course, personally, Subway Surfers is completely unplayable for me without ensuring my phone is constantly maintaining peak performance. But as stated, this all really isn't my thing. What stands out to me the most is just how darn fast this phone is, no matter what I'm doing. I'd also think there'd be some serious potential for turning this into like an emulation machine. That could be cool. Ultimately, the hardware you get here with that Snapdragon 8 Elite chipset, for about $500 or a little more if you want the extra RAM, it's really hard to argue with that value. And that, plus the amazing display, is really where this phone shines. They may not be the reason that you should buy this phone, but they might be the reason you avoid it. Let's talk about the cameras. First, the under-display selfie camera. It's subtle, but you can barely see it if you look close enough, just a little spot there. And at 16 megapixels, is it any good? Well, let's find out, shall we? Beauty mode on by default. I'm gonna turn that off. The answer is no, it is not. It is not good. It's pretty bad, actually. The over-sharpening is ludicrous. Typically, putting these cameras under the display tends to mean a big hit to quality, which is why Samsung, for example, stopped using them for the Galaxy Z Fold. But on a gaming phone like this, the quality really isn't all that important. As long as we have a selfie camera for when we do need one, like for video calls or whatever else, that's the more important thing to me, and having it to be hidden so that everything is more immersive, there's no cutout, I think that's definitely worth the hit in selfie quality. This is being filmed on the REDMAGIC 11 Air in 1080-30. It can go up to 60, but either way, safe to say it looks pretty bad. I think not a great selfie camera, but you know, gaming phone, who cares, I guess. The video is actually a little better because it's not so over-sharpened. How about the rear cameras? Well, we've got two of them here. The main 50 megapixel wide lens and then an 8 megapixel ultra wide lens. The main wide is pretty decent, all things considered. Not great, but not terrible. Pretty mid for a 2026 smartphone, but capable enough. The ultra wide though is pretty rough, and I'd honestly probably just avoid using it altogether. I guess I'd prefer to have it than not, but it's really not very good. The $750 Pro model does have a 50 megapixel ultra wide, which is no doubt far better, but as far as I can tell, it otherwise shares the same cameras, the same main wide lens, and the same selfie cam. So honestly, for a couple $100 save, not a big loss. And you can turn off the watermark, by the way, I just didn't bother. Are these terrific photos? No, they are not. But with ideal lighting, the 11 Air can deliver a solid image, and I think for a $500 phone, you could do worse. The photos are definitely a bit oversaturated, but I actually don't hate that. Like, it helps everything pop more at least. All in all, just stick with that main wide lens and you're probably okay. Video can also be filmed in up to 8K 30, which is complete overkill, but sure, why not? This is being filmed on the REDMAGIC 11 Air in 8K 30. Really changing those exposure settings a lot, or it was. I'll let you be the judge of whether or not it is any good. Ultimately, photography, not so good on this phone, but like that's not why you're buying it anyways. If that matters to you, yeah, you should look somewhere else. As with photography, the other common downside to these sorts of phones tend to be in the software. Specifically, right now we have REDMAGIC OS 11 over top Android 16. And thankfully the skin is pretty light with a vaguely iOS-like look to it, especially with that settings app icon. It runs really fast, and the pre-installed apps we do have are either easily ignorable or can just be deleted altogether. And I mean, like, what gamer wouldn't want Facebook on the home screen by default? In terms of some of the pre-installed bloat and ad situation, I did find the pre-included lock screen giving me horoscopes somewhat amusing, but this can be easily changed in settings, and thanks to the freedom of Android, there are a lot of things we can do to customize the experience to how we like. As per usual, I wouldn't expect more than a few years of support with 2 or 3 major Android updates. In the EU, you're supposed to get 5 years of updates now though, so that's nice. And in whatever case, I feel like the type of user who buys this phone probably isn't gonna wait more than like 2 years or maybe 3 years to upgrade to something newer anyways. And I'm sure this phone will last you that long if you wanted to. It's really snappy, you've got those super quick Android animations, you just fly through the software. From a functionality standpoint, I was really happy. However, when it comes to the little things, like how the custom UI can be laid out, I was less impressed. There's a lack of refinement here compared to what you would expect from a more mainstream flagship. Historically, I've never known how harsh I should be in these reviews. You'd be surprised just how often I've seen just really basic spelling and grammar errors in these sorts of phones. And I mean, it's just to be expected if you're buying from China and you live in the West and speak a language other than the one the people making this phone speak. When you're producing phones for such a cheap price tag, there are things that tend to fall through the cracks, and the lack of attention to detail, it is a bit of a red flag for me, but it's also sort of just how things are. So has it been fixed here? How are the translations on this phone? Well, by hitting the red button, we can get into the Epic Gamer mode, and we get a little bit of useful information, like how the plugin library can help you armed to teeth. After all, who wouldn't want to play new tricks in the game? I do wish they'd get like a native English speaker on the team to sort of fix some of this. If you do pick up this phone, you can expect poor translations and a mediocre UI to especially be present throughout basically any of the custom software from REDMAGIC. It's very versatile and it still works really well, but it just doesn't look very good and can be a bit hard to understand. Most of the core Android experience is still perfectly fine, as you would expect, but it's once you get into the in-game overlays and all of the options that come along with it that it can be genuinely difficult to understand at times what something is supposed to do. It is what it is. I won't harp on it too much, and overall the software experience is still pretty solid thanks to the solid foundation that is Android 16. But of course, the most important question, right, and the one I know everybody's been wondering about up to this point, is there a built-in waifu?
Is anyone there? This is Mora. Years 2132. Our fleet is under attack by an alien civilization.
The answer is yes. I mean, it wouldn't be a gaming phone without one of these, right? Should I go through this setup? I'll go through the setup process, sure. The settings are just like slowly scrolling. It's very annoying to read that, but whatever, that's fine. What do you guys think? Should I allow her to look at my photos? That's not coming into focus, is it? Well, you know what? Absolutely. You can have all my photos. That's fine. I trust you. So yes, we do have a built-in waifu. My dog is very interested. I don't know what this phone would be without this feature, honestly. I wouldn't want it, you know, but this is the only reason I buy it. What are you doing? She's like, oh, she's got like a glass or a cup or something. Yes, built-in waifu. So, you know, if you want that, it is here. I won't judge. Okay, so I think we've about covered everything I wanted to get to. Oh, your breath is bad, dog. Your breath is not good. As stated, I'm not a mobile gamer. That probably came across pretty well in this video. And this smartphone is built purposely for that niche. You are getting top-end specs for like half the price of most flagships. And while there's some compromise to be found, particularly in photography and the software, if the reason you're buying this phone is to play 3D games at the best settings possible for like the lowest price possible, also in a package that's much more compact than your typical gaming phone, or maybe you want to use something like this for emulation, right? I think there's probably a lot of potential there because the hardware is so powerful. I think it would be great for that. This is a gaming phone, and if you want a gaming phone, you'd be hard-pressed to find a better deal than this right here. But if you're not someone who considers themselves to be super into smartphone gaming, well, there still could be a use case. There's not a lot of phones that bring this level of specs for so cheap. Plus, it's got a pretty great display. That all being said, for the most part, no, I don't think this is really a phone worth buying. And that's not a surprise, right? For the average user, this is definitely not a phone worth buying. It's for mobile gamers. That's who this phone is for the most part. You're simply not going to get the same level of consistency and reliability and the software support as you would from a mainstream brand like Samsung or Apple or Google. This is a niche device with a niche use case, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you're someone who purposely sought out this video, like you were looking this phone up, you were looking into it, there's a very good shot this would be a good buy for you because clearly you want something like this. Or maybe you were just curious, but hopefully this video helped you out in either case. All in all, fun phone to play around with, and thank you to REDMAGIC for sending it out to me. As for the finger, it's my rigged finger, so I was working out and kind of slipped and it got crushed by some weights and tore off the nail. Here's an x-ray. There was so much blood. I will not show a picture of what it looked like, but you know, it could be worse. It's not like a broken arm or something. Not that I would know what that would be like. Okay, that's it for me. Thank you all so much for watching. If you found this video interesting or helpful, please hit that like button and consider subscribing for more tech content. Also, comment your thoughts down below. What do you think of this phone? Is it worth like 500 bucks? I mean, like, it's such a good deal for such great hardware. No, it's not a phone most people should buy, but it's definitely not a bad device by any means. Shout out to the channel members. Thank you guys so much for your support. You guys are seriously the best. And also shout out to the Discord server. We have one of those if you want to come by and say hi, talk to some like-minded techies. For now, that's it from me. I'm Josh from 91 Tech, and this is Cola, and we will see you all next time.